We say a very good afternoon. He's a good friend of mine, and what I love about this man is, as we always say, me and Ivon Sampson, you can sit in a room, disagree, and then you have a glass. Ivon Sampson, immigration law, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Jeremy. How are you doing?
Look at him, he's already up for it. Before we delve into this, because I know you're charging the taxpayer a lot of money for this, in the press conference today, Nigel Farage obviously unveiled mass deportation plans. He also spoke about why he is taking illegal immigration so seriously. Ivon, have a listen.
And what began as a protest of mothers and concerned citizens outside the Bell Hotel in Epping has now spread right across the country. And all of it really poses one big fundamental question. Whose side are you on? Are you on the side of women and children being safe on our streets? Or are you on the side of outdated international treaties backed up by a series of dubious courts?
Ivon Sampson, I respect you enough to have you on. I hope the same is for you. Today, pretty seminal. One of the criticisms of Keir Starmer's approach is that he always goes back to international law and treaties, and we've spoken many times before about how those in your mind are important to adhere to. But how do you, with your views, address the undoubted concern, mass concern in this country? We'll take Epping as an example. What do you make of what Nigel Farage said there?
I think he's capturing the mood of a certain portion of the country, but not everyone. And this is the problem, Jeremy, because when Nigel speaks, it's as if he speaks for the whole country. He doesn't.
Don't politicians do that? I'm not jumping in deliberately, but don't politicians tend to do that?
You don't hear the voice of millions of people who are compassionate, who would not want to send someone to a country where they could be killed. And that question was put to Nigel. And his announcement today was that we would disapply the Refugee Convention, which prevents what's called refoulement, sending someone where they may face persecution. For example, you might send them to Iran, or you might send them to Afghanistan. And he said that'll be fine. We have no problem with that, because British people come first, even if someone's going to be killed. I don't think you're that type of person.
I don't want anybody killed, but we've always been very honest with each other. So let me take what you said. A certain portion of this country. I would respectfully suggest that an increasing number, in fact, a majority of people, because, Ivon, and we've talked many times before, because of the state this country is in, yes, it is not like Iran, Afghanistan, I get all of that. But when people, and I genuinely, hand on heart, mean this, have lived their lives correctly, paid their stamp, never broken the rules, never asked for a handout, when they, not in the context of Iran, but in the context of their lives, north of Watford Gap, right, are struggling with their kids, with bills, with food on the table, when they can't see a doctor. I say it every day. What the hell do you expect these people, who have quite rightly been brought up to believe in compassion, but at the end of the day, you know this and I know this, we're skint, Ivon, we're skint, and it's about what your priorities are, isn't it?
Indeed, and I sympathise with all those voices. But this is it, you see, because nobody, the asylum seekers haven't asked to be put up in four-star hotels.
What would you do? What would you do?
That's a government policy. I'm not a policy maker. That's a government policy. Those protesters should be protesting outside Downing Street, not outside asylum hotels.
But then as a lawyer, and I don't want to disrespect you, I've been dying to speak to you for weeks, right? I've got a teenage daughter. Let's talk Epping, OK? Let's talk Epping, because, you know, jokingly, there have been some stories on this show and on Mike's show over the last few months that would leave you cold as to reasons why people are allowed to stay. There was an appalling story I did last week about a man who 2 years ago walked onto Bournemouth Beach in Dorset, stuck his hands down the back and front of a 17-year-old's tracksuit bottoms, traumatises her for life, and the judge, Ivon Sampson, said, and I quote, this is a mere aberration. He's had a hard upbringing and he's free to stay here and live in that community. So what I believe the people there and the people of Epping were saying, predominantly mothers, I'm really sorry if this doesn't sound right, but we are concerned for our children. Now, that surely, when you talk to me about compassion, where is the compassion from all these human rights people about the people of this country who don't live in Iraq but are suffering because of this situation? Where's the compassion there, Ivon?
That person should be arrested, detained and deported.
He used a human rights immigration lawyer and he's staying in the United Kingdom forever.
The laws are there to remove and deport people.
Yep.
If the judges are not doing it, Parliament should then relook at putting some structures in place, because Parliament's sovereign. The judges are only applying the laws as they stand.
Yep.
Now, I think one problem that Nigel will have is that he won't be able to disapply parts of the convention or disapply the refugee convention.
Will you think that, say, stuff like the ECHR, he will struggle to break away from, is what you're saying, right?
Can't disapply parts of it, because what they're saying, we'll disapply Article 8, for example. Okay, we'll disapply, right to life. I mean, that's a fundamental right we all have, right not to be tortured.
But I get that, but then your problem, and we will always come back to this, and you always answer it better than anybody else, your right to life, your right not to be tortured, I absolutely adhere to. You know, we've talked about Ukraine in the past, but you cannot expect, again, hard-working people, right, to look at these people who, yes, come on boats, but you can't tell me when the passports are dropped, when they don't bring their wives and children, and when they're living on a beach in France. And I agree with you about the hotels. I would make a detention centre here so it wasn't so attractive. I think the pull of the United Kingdom is so great that it becomes the final destination. I don't think we should change being a nation that cares, but I think we have to prioritise. And I've thought that forever. And there will be certain people who will take Farage's rhetoric and say this is outrageous. There will be many who will say this is fantastic. But there is an issue. And it sounds a horrible thing to say, charity begins at home. But I want people on the other side of the argument to go, I do understand where the frustration is building. I do understand where the fear is amongst people who have lived here all their lives. And I do think that they deserve to not have their public services stretched or their safety impaired by what they see as people in this country who haven't been vetted and who haven't been here. But I agree with you. Successive governments have never come up with a policy to condition, to look at, to decide. It's ludicrous that we're in a position that we're in.
I agree. Look, I've got a 16-year-old, Jeremy, a daughter, and let me tell you, I fear for her safety, as well as you probably do with these people who we don't know where they're from, we don't know their background, and they're allowed to continue to walk our streets. They should be detained. Nobody who comes to our country without proper documentation and background checks should be allowed to walk our streets. That's government policy.
Yeah.
So what Nigel's done, it's a bad plan, I'll be honest. It will not work, because I did the numbers on his 5 flights a day. It would take 10 years, assuming we have 5 flights a day, every day, 7 days a week for the next 10 years, to remove about 500,000 people.
I would respectfully suggest, though, that the British people might say in 2029, I could be wrong, even if Nigel Farage deports 10, 20, 30, 40%, he is setting his stall out, be it right or wrong, be it achievable or not. Now, the critics will say you're just dancing to the tune, right, of what the British people want. Isn't that what... aren't you supposed, as a politician? I get it, and I get that there will be people who look with horror at what they envisage might unfold. But what I want from my politician, and I've said it repeatedly on this show, I don't care what your political party. I want you to listen to me, act for me, and be honest with me. And right now, I think, from my position doing this, we have a government that doesn't know which direction to turn in, and a Prime Minister who spends his entire time trying to please all the people all the time and doesn't seem to have a plan. We haven't heard jack from the Tories. They're still 11 months into working out where they went wrong. You went wrong because you lied and didn't do what you were going to say. So you could say about Nigel Farage that he's grabbing the moment, but I've said it to you for 2 years. I think this will be the #1 debate and the #1 topic at the next election. I want us to be a country that has morality, but I also want us to be a country that cares about our own people first and foremost. I really do,
but
Ivon.
This plan, a bad plan, is better than no plan. And I think that's what the public are going to engage with. Because at the moment, both the Conservatives and the Labour don't have a plan.
No, I agree. I really do. And I'll say this, I always say, I love having you on here, mate. I really appreciate you taking your time, and don't send me the invoice. Ivon Sampson, immigration law, top man for coming on Talk Drive.